Welcome to the Impossible to Fail podcast. Today, my guest, I'm so excited to be bringing on Kim Daly, who we have right here. Kim, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, Rob, thank you so much. I'm excited I'm as excited as you are excited about this today.
Yeah, before I hit record, we just got on a tangent. Kim is a nutritional biochemist by nature, you said, right? I'm a championship bodybuilder. So we just got to talking about all sorts of stuff. And I said, man, we should be recording this right now. So let's get started now. I have the honor of
talk about diet and nutrition.
Of introducing you here, Kim. Now, you spent the last 20 years helping people achieve financial freedom by enabling them to find the perfect franchise opportunities. You're a franchising expert, and the Impossible to Fail podcast blueprint is all about getting the blueprint. And so if someone were to say, I want to get the blueprint on franchising, you are the perfect person to give it to them. Yeah, so this is super exciting. Now, you've helped clients match. So you take their background, their interests, their skills, their financing, their life goals. You present them with an ideal opportunity that makes sense. And so today we're going to be able to gain insights on what could probably seem very daunting and overwhelming for people. And you're going to break it down and show them how possible it is for them to get involved and change their life through franchising.
You got it.
That's amazing. That's incredible. So, first and foremost, let me ask, because I always like to know, what I'm doing now is not what I started doing as, at a school. And I think for most people, the entrepreneurial journey that they're on is not the first thing they do. So how did you even get involved in franchising in the first place?
Right. How does a nutritional biochemist end up as a franchise consultant? Exactly. Right. It's not obvious, you mean? So I wanted to work with professional athletes. I wanted to help people. I love sports. I love nutrition. I was like, I'm going to go to medical school. I ended up answering a classified ad in the newspaper.
Wow.
Many years ago. Yes. Sometimes I have to explain to my children what a classified ad is. Right. And it was for a franchise consulting company. It was a part-time summertime job. And literally it changed my life, or so I thought. There's a deeper story in there, but after a few days on the job, I was offered a full-time, 1-year contract. And of course, my father was like, don't do it. You'll never go to medical school. And I'm like, Dad, my whole life is about medical school. I'm totally going to go. But like the idea of like taking a break from studying in school and just like doing something, making money, and then what happened, Rob, is I found this industry of entrepreneurs, of people helping people living their dreams every single day. Right. So you know what ended up happening? I was in that business that I worked for, that job, for about 3 years. And finally, I was like, this is stupid. Here I am helping other people. It's not the business I'm in today, but it was the whole industry. Yeah. And I'm like, I want to be the entrepreneur. I don't want to work for somebody else. So at the age of 25, I quit that job, started my first company, and I've never looked back.
Wow. 25, you started your first company.
25. Yeah. Yeah. And I was an entrepreneur. I decided I'm going it alone, going to do it the hardest way possible. Right. That only took me about 4 or 5 years to figure out, I need a franchise. I need systems. I want to be in business with people, not all by myself. So at 29, I turned back to franchising. And I found the business I'm a part of today, which has, who knew it would have been a 20-year run. It's been absolutely the most amazing opportunity for me. I literally feel like I was born to do this job, to be in this business. Gosh. So I thought it was a deviation, but all along I was right where I was always meant to be.
Wow. And that's a really good feeling as an entrepreneur when you connect, you feel that deep intrinsic connection with what you're doing. And that's when you hear people say, like, I feel like I've never worked a day in my life. And a lot of people probably can't relate to that when it's like, how could you really love what you're doing that much? And you found it.
I absolutely, I love to say I'm completely unemployable, not because I couldn't get a job, because I will never look to anybody else to employ me. Yeah. Now, again, my father would say, Kimberly, you've always been unemployable since the time you were 2 years old. I guess I've always sort of been the boss of me. But I also love to say that, I'm unemployable. And I've never worked a day since I found my passion doing what I'm doing, which I'll admit, Rob, it took me about 8 years of like kind of fumbling around. I was an average performing consultant trying to figure out like how to really do this. And it's kind of funny. In the recession of 2008, I started to really think more clearly about my business. And by
as many people did,
I put my head down and I made history in 2011. I built the largest franchise consulting business in the history of my industry. And then over the last decade, I've just broken my own history records again and again and again. And it's a lot more fun to have a business of this size than my average performing days. But, it's because I really became accountable to my own result. I started focusing on what I could control. And I just started to master the basics, the fundamentals of my business. And that changed everything.
Yeah, that's incredible. I talk about those. I refer to those as the daily drills. The principles of success in your business.
The daily.
Oh, D-A to the L to the Y, the daily drills. Love it. And so let's hit on that for a moment. Because I've classified, fear of failure as actually one overarching thing for what I classify as the 4 fears: fear of judgment, fear of the unknown, fear of imperfection, and fear of sacrifice. And that if you look at whatever's holding you back, it's going to be one or a combination of those things. So I was very intrigued when you said you were, it took you 8 years to figure out you were kind of that average performer, but then you mentioned some words that make my ears perk up, like accountability, right? Like just doing the things every day that you need to do, those basic principles of success that then literally got you past the tipping point, breaking into a new level to now accomplish something that you never would have imagined possible prior to that 2011 period. And now you're just light years ahead of where you ever could have imagined because of those principles that you applied.
And it's fundamentals. And you know what? I love to tell people that because I'm the same me, basically. Franchise, my franchise, it's the same process. I still do every single thing I was trained to do back in 2002. I just figured out where to really focus my time to drive the greatest result. And you know what? There's a tipping point in every franchise just like that. So now with my own experience, it helps me coach all of my candidates because oftentimes, let's be real, in a franchise, people are looking at the franchisor to make them successful, which is like the most cringy, but they also start looking at, is my market, my market's going to make me successful, or a recession, that's going to make me, really, it's going to make it hard to be successful. And you know what? All of that, it's untrue. If you own your results, then in good times and bad, you will own your results and you can produce what you aspire to produce. And I'm living proof of that. And I can teach people how to find the people in their franchise they're looking at who are at that level, who are taking that accountability. And inevitably, they will be the top performers in the franchise. People are not reaching top performing by accident.
Absolutely. You are so correct about that. And you need to surround yourself with the right people, right? If you're going to, just like, with my real estate team, when I'm recruiting someone, I tell them, look, I'm looking for Navy SEALs, not the Navy. I'm looking for A players only, because I'm an A player. And when we surround ourselves with A players, everyone wants to get better. Right. And it sounds like that's the same principle that you're talking about when you're looking at who's going to be on your franchise team, because obviously who's on your team is going to make you or break you, and a rising tide will raise all ships. So making sure that you surround yourself with the right people as you get into this franchise business sounds like it's really an essential part of kind of the front end as you're about to dive in.
It's the core, Rob. So the number one reason to invest in a franchise is for people. Like if you want to be in business for yourself, go be an entrepreneur. But if you know that that's the hardest way and the most unsuccessful way, you look at statistics of startup businesses where 90% of them fail before their 5th anniversary. Well, that statistic is not owned in solid franchises, right? So when you're partnering yourself with people who've already figured it out, so you're buying down the learning curve and you're partnering yourself with their training and their coaching and the toolbox that they've created, that's what kind of gives you the leverage not to only be able to scale your business, which is really how the wealth is created, but to avoid those statistics of failure. So it's all about finding people. I'm infinitely more interested in making a connection with my candidate to the leadership team of a franchise than I am someone saying to me like, oh, Kim, I love to work out, so can you show me a gym? Well, maybe if a gym is going to make you the kind of money that you want to make, it's going to provide the quality of life that you're looking for, and it's backed by leadership that has a proven track record and a vision for the future and financial capability to take the brand there. Because otherwise, without those things, you can invest in a hobby, but if that doesn't make you any money or you become enslaved to it, you're not going to be excited about your business. But if I find you a business that you don't even really know anything about, maybe you feel even unqualified, but you look at the financial potential, you look at the quality of life that the owners who are in it are, validating they have. Trust me, Rob, there's a lot of businesses that people get really excited about once they have money and quality of life. And so that's my spiel, like all day long. Let go of your passion for the widget. Your passion will come because the business provides you what it needs to provide you, which is leadership and, accountability, coaching, tools, and money, financial outcome, and quality of life.
Yeah. So the franchise really, when you align with the right franchise, you're aligning with the blueprint that is going to resonate with what you want. So if I were to come to you and say, Kim, I'm a bodybuilder, I want to own a gym, let's do a gym franchise. You might say, Rob, that's great that you're passionate about bodybuilding, yet I want to know what your goals are, what your time commitment is. What are you trying to achieve out of this? Because even though you're passionate about bodybuilding, the gym may not be the best franchise for you. And in fact, if you're passionate about achieving the goals that you've mentioned to me, I might recommend connecting you with the leadership of these other franchises. And then as a result of the success that I'm going to achieve following that, that is when the passion comes in. Because really, if I like it, as someone who doesn't own a franchise, my goal is, again, money and quality of life, not necessarily working at the place all day myself.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. You hit it. You hit it on the head. You got it.
Yeah. That's exciting. Well, franchising has been something I thought about. So I guarantee you I'll be giving you a call sometime in the future. And right now is a great time to ask this next question because, at the time of this recording, it is October 21st, 2022. Now I'm in the real estate game. I'm a real estate agent. I own a really incredible real estate team here in Austin, Texas. I coach real estate agents all over the country, and everyone's talking about the market, the economy, what is going on. I got people coming up to me, kind of like putting their hand on my shoulder, like, hey man, I heard the market. Like, you doing okay? I'm like, man, I'm doing great. We're making more money than ever. Like, we know how to hustle. Like, we've been working hard, and it is kind of uncertain economic times right now, recession, everything people are hearing on the media. So why is franchising a safe investment, even in uncertain economic times like we are experiencing right now?
Yeah, such a great question. And you're so right. It's on every candidate's mind, whether they say it to me or not. I am absolutely probing for it, like how much of this is a concern.
Right.
And I think that former entrepreneurs, people that have owned businesses, it's less of a concern because maybe they've weathered different storms and they just know that, listen, if you're going to be a business owner, you're going to have good times and bad times. So you just get in, you're committed to being a business owner and you're committed to the long haul. But the first time business owners are a little bit more nervous. They don't want to come in at the hardest peak. I get it. But the reason that franchising wins in good times and bad, because there are different types of businesses in the industry. There's over 80 different industries that are franchised, and there's over 3,000 to 4,000 opportunities on the market at any one time. So
I'm sorry, how many?
3,000 to 4,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a dizzying number.
How do you do it on your own? How do you sift through that? How do you select the right, not just the right industry, but then the right company in that industry versus, the one that's going to match your goals? This is why I have a business, and my services are free, by the way, but we can come back to that. To answer your question, the reason what people will invest in over that, like what they've been investing in since 2020 sort of flipped from 2019 to 2020 and into 2021 and 2022. So there are essential services. There are businesses that feel just a little bit, quote, safer. Like if you need your drain cleaned, you need your drain cleaned, whether it's a recession or not. If there's a leak in your roof, you need your roof fixed, right? So we have franchises in essential services. So in a tougher economy, the average person's probably looking more to an essential service. Not always. I still have beauty brands, which as a woman, I would argue that beauty never is always recession resistant.
Sure.
I'm never going to stop coloring my hair or doing my nails, right? Recession.
You'll revolve the rest of your life around that.
That's true, Rob. Us women are still going to spend money to look good, right?
Right.
So anyway, but and then in good times, investors are investing, are looking more to wealth generation, and they're thinking more about, investing in things that people want. But the idea is that we have things that people need, we have things that people want. So my role as your consultant is to understand where you are on that risk tolerance scale and what's going to make you feel comfortable and safe. I don't want to show you businesses that are going to blow you out of the water, where even if they can prove to you that they're recession resistant, you're never going to hear it, because in your heart, you're like, no, people aren't going to spend money. So just because a franchisor has proof doesn't mean people hear it. So when you work with me, I'm not going to force you into something that doesn't feel right. I may challenge you to like, hey, while we're just exploring multiple concepts, let's cast a wider net. Let's just not pigeonhole you into what you think is good for you, because you're always going to make more money selling people what they want. Always. There's more money. People don't haggle over the price. The margins are bigger. When you sell people what they need, you come up against a lot of competition, right? These are commoditized markets, typically, a lot of competition, smaller margin, right? So, there are pros and cons to both sides. One's not better than the other. They're just used by different people for different outcomes. That's all.
Wow. That's so powerful. And I was really, you really hit a good, we really resonated when you mentioned, like there's 3,000 to 4,000 opportunities out there. How can you possibly choose one? And this is where what your framework and my framework really coincide, because, getting the impossible to fail framework starts, the cornerstone is getting the blueprint from the right person. So for example, if someone tries to get, their real estate license, typically, I just got my license. What do I do now? One of the forwarding domains for my sales course is I got my license now what.com, because agents say that all the time. And why it makes no sense if you were to try to say, well, I'm going to change my life and income by diving headfirst into this thing that I have zero experience in. Let me just try to figure it out by myself. That makes no sense. I mean, in anything, it makes no sense. Yet in business, people do not see the value always in investing in something. And, there's a finite amount of time that you have. So for example, if I didn't know anything and didn't engage with someone like you and just tried to open a franchise, there's a short amount of time. And maybe with finances, maybe I only have one try. Maybe I can't fail and have 2 tries. Why wouldn't you give yourself the chance to give the shortest path to success? Because every day you wait, you're just pushing your own finish line further away from you. So being able to engage someone like you to say, I want to get in franchising, let me just go right to like the expert in the industry. Kim, tell me, what should I do? That is absolutely like a no-brainer. So if you're out there thinking about franchising, go to Kim's website. It's the dalycoach.com, DALY, the dalycoach.com, and ask her, what's the best opportunity for me? Now, Kim, let me circle back to something else, because almost in passing, you were like, my services are free, but we'll come back to that later. Like, whoa, because if I imagine,
drop the mic.
Yeah. Like, oh, let me just drop the mic right there. Like, so if I did not know that about you, I would assume, well, Kim is the authority of franchising. She's broken world records. I can only assume her services are in the 5 to 6 figures, right? But that's not the case. So tell me how, is that kind of like if I use a travel agent, they get paid from the company? Like, how does that work?
Right. So hopefully, Rob, people feel like my advice is priceless.
Yeah.
However, they don't pay me any money for it. So
Right.
at the end of the day, I always tell people, look, if what I'm saying doesn't resonate with you, it was free advice. Take it for what it was and move on. Right. So there's no obligation here whatsoever. But yes, I am paid like a recruiter. So the franchisors don't have to sift through tons of organic leads and try to figure out who's legit, who's motivated, who's financially qualified, who lives in a market that they even have open. That's a waste of their time. So they come to consultants and say, hey, here's our business. Here's who we are. And I've been doing this for 20 years. Like these people are my friends. It's like when we get together twice a year, it's like a college reunion. Well, I don't drink alcohol, but a lot of people do. So it's a lot of alcohol consumption.
Same. Yeah.
It's more the camaraderie. That's like, old home day, just seeing my friends. We get together twice a year, January and July, and we share best practices. We get caught up on sort of what happened in the first 6 months or the last 6 months since we were together. So I'm always kind of current and fresh with my inventory. We're adding new companies, we're eliminating new companies. So it's never stale. Like it's always growing because we're selling brands out. And then we got to bring new ones in, right? I work a lot in the Texas markets. And so, Dallas, Texas, it's nothing for me to sell out my brand new company, in 6 months of the year. And there won't even be one location open in Dallas and the whole market's sold, right? Because maybe I brought in 5 or 6 owners. They all moved forward with, 4 or 5 locations and the market was going to hold 20 or 25 stores and boom, the whole thing is closed. So the reason the franchisors pay me and therefore it's free for you, my candidate, is because I'm doing all of that upfront work. I'm figuring out who's really serious about this, right? This is a 1 to 2 month due diligence process. It should not take you 6 months to invest in a franchise. If you're out there on your own, probably 6 to 12 months. If you're working with Kim Daly, it's 1 to 2 months. I am very, very consistent at the 6-week mark. So because I know the steps, I have the blueprint, like Rob said. So it's free because the franchisors pay me to do all of their dirty work, to do all their prospecting, to serve up financially qualified, motivated people who live in the markets that are viable for their business and open. I introduce you like a matchmaker. I always say I'm sort of like eHarmony. So we're going to go on we're going to start with a blind date and we're going to start dating and try to get to a marriage proposal, because ultimately a lot of people don't realize this, Rob, but franchises are not sold. They're awarded. So this is a mutual evaluation process. So while you're getting to know the franchisor, they're getting to know you, because look, it's their business. It's their vision for bringing a brand to market. Yes, they're going to use your time and energy and money to build their brand, but they want people, they're building a family. They want people that are coachable. They want people that are competitive. They want people that are going to do right by their brand, that are going to fit into their culture. The worst thing a franchisor can do is award a franchise to somebody who is like just really combative, who like during the due diligence process is aggressive in their questions and always challenging the franchisor, no matter what the franchisor says, like looking for the yeah, but.
The expert, the inexperienced expert.
Yes. And it doesn't mean that you can't ask challenging questions. Of course, you should ask every question, but it's the time and the tone, right? And it's hearing the answer and being willing to say, okay. And if it doesn't resonate with you, then we move on from the company. Don't just keep grilling the franchisor. But the whole point I was making is those kinds of people, the franchisor is thinking, man, this guy or gal is this hard before we take their money. Well, what the heck happens after we take their money? Money just intensifies the whole thing, right?
And then when things don't go well, who are they going to blame for their own lack of action and following the blueprint that you provide? So you're really, in essence, somewhat of an opportunity broker here, right? You're finding the people who have an interest in investing in franchising. You have such a deep knowledge of the various franchises you work with, the owners, their leadership, the inner workings, their back end. And so the owners of the franchise are happy to pay you for these services because, number one, you by about almost 70%, you shorten the amount of time it takes to get things going, but you also give them peace of mind and like, hey, Kim did your due diligence, you are working with the right people that are going to grow your franchise in this area.
That was said better than probably anybody ever said it, Rob. A+ to you.
Thank you. Well, I mean, that's incredible.
It.
And there's a lot of value there in opportunity broking, in connecting two people with common needs and being the intermediary that makes it work. I mean, in real estate, I do something somewhat similar. I mean, I have someone that has a problem they need to solve with buying or selling a home, and then we have to find the home and basically put them together.
Right.
It's even more similar when I work with investors. So I came from real estate investing prior to getting my license, and I have a lot of experience working with investors, 1031 exchanges, cash buyers, buy and holds, flippers. And it's a very similar process when someone says, they want to invest. So one of the first questions is like, have you invested in real estate before? If they have, all right, well, this should be a little bit of an easier process, I would imagine, similar to you. If someone says I've done franchising before, I'm just trying to, scale. But I've had times where someone's like, no, Rob, I've never invested in real estate, but I read a lot of books and articles. And then they start, contradicting me, or, quote unquote, educating me with all of the wrong information, by the way, or they're like, well, I read about the 1% rule. I'm like, yeah, the 1% rule is awesome. That doesn't exist here in Austin, Texas. Like, you're just not going to find it. And they're like, yeah, but this is what I'm looking for. And I'm like, yeah, but you're not going to find it. And it's, so that is a lot of red flags also when you have, and sometimes I might be like, look, I just don't think it makes sense for us to work together because they're going to be nothing but a headache. And in a similar way, what you're doing is you're pre-screening these people. It's a win-win because you're pre-screening the people for the owners of the company, but you're also really doing the people that align with you a favor by saying, I know what you need better than you do based on what your goals are.
Right.
Yeah.
And coaching. So I become the trusted advisor. So I can coach their emotions, which look, when you look at the number of people that think about franchising or even explore franchising, there's a book out there by Joe Matthews called Street Smart Franchising. And one of the chapters is the 1 versus the 99. So out of 100 people that think about it, 99 won't and 1 will. So Thank God my statistics are much, much, much higher than that.
Right.
I would die. However, I can see why that's a true statistic because there are so many false expectations of what you're owed or what you're going to get. There's so many pitfalls in the exploration process, even just when someone goes to open the legal document, the franchise disclosure document, which is without coaching. I mean, these are 200 or more page documents. They're weighted greatly in favor of the franchisor. I mean, without coaching, people will come back to me and say, why would I ever agree to this? I'm putting in all the money and taking all the risk, but then they have all the rights. Like, how is this even fair?
Right.
But once I'm able to get to them before they read the FDD and say, look, the reason it's one-sided is because this is the franchisor's vision for bringing a brand to market. And ultimately, they need control over what people do so that they can step in when it's your neighbor who's the total schmuck, who's hurting your opportunity. Yep. And you're calling the corporate office saying, hey, he's selling, something that's not on the menu. And I don't even show food. So there's that, but you just use that example, right? Yeah. And the corporate office is like, without a franchise disclosure document that basically outlines how we're all going to play together in the sandbox. It's like an HOA, right? You can't park commercial vehicles in your driveway. Like, it's part of the HOA.
Read the documents.
It makes the neighborhood just feel a little bit more, better. And so the same thing here, like this FDD is not to like hurt people that are working in good interest of the franchise brand. It's to help weed out the people or help the franchisor to legally step in if they ever need to, for the people that decide, I want to do it your way. I'm going to do it my way. Right. And their way is hurting the future for the other franchisees. So that's just one example of where people trip. I'm writing a book, Rob, and in the book, I have this chapter where I talk about like investing in a franchise is a lot like walking through a battlefield and it's a battlefield in one's mind. And I'm the war general who knows where every landmine is in that battlefield because I've walked it for 20 years. So my job, if I'm successful, is to navigate you around the landmines. Because if you step on one and you blow yourself up, it's really hard to put you back together emotionally. But if I can say to you, hey, Rob, yeah, it's really common for people to assume that their market is special or unique or different. But most of the time that's not true. But here's how we're gonna figure out if what you're thinking is true. I'm never gonna make somebody wrong for what they feel or what they're thinking.
Sure.
I'm just gonna be the guide to say, well, that may be true, but how about if we do this and really figure out from within the system if what you're thinking is true, or maybe it's just an assumption.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of my role, is to help people stay open. Just stay open, because the more open you are, the more you're willing to ask the questions and hear the answer, the more likely you are to make that connection. And the last thing I'll say before I shut up, I promise, is that, some people will come to me and say, well, this is highly exploratory. I don't know if I'm going to invest in a franchise. And I say, great, because that takes all the pressure off of us. Like, you can't come to me and say, I'm definitely investing in a franchise. You don't even know what you don't know. You have to give the process time. So saying yes to the franchise is the natural, reasonable thing to do when you've asked enough questions and you're satisfied with enough of the answers. But nothing is going to be perfect. There's always going to be things you can make wrong. So you have to be reasonable and say, I realize the world isn't perfect. It's everything is uncertain. And I have to just say, this is what I want. I've found people who have enough of a track record. I align with their culture. I believe in them. I believe they have my best interest at heart, and know that this is the moment and I'm going for it. Right? When you've asked enough questions, you'll be reasonably sure, 80 to 90% sure that this is the right thing for you. You're never going to be 100% sure.
Right. No, there's never, especially in something you've never done before. And that's the one of the 4 fears I classify as fear of the unknown. Right. This is the franchising. It's so new to me. I'm afraid because of all the things that could go wrong. So one of the things you could do to mitigate that fear, number one, is align with someone like you, who sounds like you not only get them in the door to explain the front end, but you're with them. You offer those coaching services throughout to make sure, hey, I'm not just going to help you start. I'm going to make sure you can actually succeed at this thing. Right. And that is the best, all of the biggest growth periods of my life has always come from when I've had a coach. My music business, it took me 10 years to go from middle school music teacher to scaling that business to about $250,000 a year to quit my teaching job. Wow. And the latter half of that is when I started trying to align with people that had experience in that. So then, of course, when I did that and saw the life-changing results it had, that's when this whole framework for me really started. So when I decided to be a competitive bodybuilder, day one, I hired a coach. When I decided to be a real estate agent, day one, hired a coach. Start to build a team, day one, hire the best coach in the world at building teams. And within 7 months, I had my first $100,000 commission month by aligning with the right people and then sticking with them. And so you offer that. You don't just get them in the door with the exploratory phase. You offer that coaching because they need guidance, right? They need that guidance. And another thing about the fear of the unknown, if any of you are out there wondering like, oh, franchising, like it's kind of scary though. Again, you have Kim here to walk you all the way through that process. But remember, it is totally normal to fear the unknown. I talk about this in my book, the fear of the unknown, because that's a survival mechanism built into our DNA, right? When we were living in tribes and hunter-gatherers, which is where we've been for the vast majority of human evolution up until recently, which is pretty much the blink of an eye of our current type of civilization. Fearing the unknown kept you alive, right? If there's something you're not sure about, or you're going to explore some land you haven't, or, I'll use the analogy like, oh, there's some movement in the bushes. Like it could be the wind, it could be a bear. What are you going to do, right? So fear of the unknown has kept us alive. However, realize it's also in the human spirit to fear the unknown, yet explore it and conquer it anyway. Right. I mean, humans have taken over the world. I'm flying to Arizona for a mastermind tomorrow because the Wright brothers conquered the unknown of flying. I get in my Tesla every day because Elon Musk conquered the unknown of electric cars. People conquer the unknown every day. Unfortunately, if you're getting into franchising, you're thinking about it, the beautiful thing is, I mean, the only time I think that the fear of the unknown can really, really be paralyzing is if you're doing something literally no one has done before. Right.
Which is start a business from scratch. And that's, you mean, if you're bringing something new to market, no one's ever done it before.
Right. But in terms of franchising, the principles of franchising, people have done it before. People have become very successful, and there is a blueprint to follow here.
Correct.
And that's what Kim offers. So Kim, I mean, how is it really, if I were to say, Kim, this is all great, I want financial freedom. How is it that I can build my wealth and the quality of life that I want through franchising? Like, okay, owning a franchise, I guess I got people working there and I make it like, what does it really look like for me to achieve serious wealth owning a franchise or multiple locations?
Yeah. So you just said it, it's through the scale. So like anything else, Rob, and that's really the difference between franchisees who come in working on their business rather than in their business versus entrepreneurs who are developing an idea or a market from the beginning. And oftentimes they can't figure out how to get out from underneath what they built. But in a franchise where you can come in as the CEO, leverage through systems and team and marketing, then you can start and you can drive higher revenue. So you can see franchisees going from 0 to $1 million in top line revenue in the first 12 months, like in a home services business. Well, like, let's say it's HVAC. I mean, how many HVAC guys out there who's, put a magnetic sign on their pickup truck and say, hey, I'm an HVAC guy, ever build $1 million business, right? Right. They're going on every call. These are people that may not know anything about HVAC, but they're driving a sales and marketing company using the guy with the magnetic sign as the contractor to do the work. So they can keep saying yes to the phone. They can keep driving more customer acquisition and driving those revenue. But always in a business, wealth is created through the scale. It's not about one rooftop when you're in real estate. It's about multiple rooftops, right? It's not about one location. So in franchising in a business, you can look at scale using people. You can look at scale using trucks, or you can look at scale or equipment, or you can look at scale using brick and mortar location. Just yesterday, I met a guy. So I've been reaching out with this whole conversation about recession. I've been reaching out to franchisors that had franchisees that started back in 2008, right? So let's talk to some people who dared to do it in the last recession. Yeah. So I met a guy, a contractor guy, who saw the housing market starting to tank in 2008, and he decided to invest in Paul Davis Restoration. So today his company is doing $15 million a year. And that's only one business of like, I don't even know how he had a cabinet business, a flooring business. He's still in the house flipping business. But what he said was, this franchise allowed me to weather that sort of temporary storm in real estate. But then it proved to be this amazing bread and butter. And I said, so you're this serial entrepreneur guy, right? You clearly know how to run a business. Where's the value in the franchise and paying fees? And he said, Kim, the value for him in this particular business is water mitigation is paid through insurance. So he goes, if I was to he goes, I'd like to think that I'm a nice guy. And if I walked into like, insurance company A, they'd be like, oh yeah, we want to do business with you, Alan. He goes, but when I come in bearing the name of Paul Davis, they're like, oh yes, here's the business. Here's the business. Here's the business, because the branding that Paul Davis has in the insurance world. So it brought him tremendous value. So, there is substantial wealth to be built in a franchise. But again, it's all about aligning your skills and the time that you have, the skills that you have to put into the right business, and then being able to create that scale, whether it's scaling teams of people, trucks out in the marketplace, or brick and mortar location. All of that's possible in franchising.
Wow. So Kim, if I were to say, hey, I want to start a franchise, I want to start with one location. What kind of money can I expect in the first year, Kim? Now you're probably like, that's a loaded, somewhat uneducated question. But if I were to say, what does that look like? I'm sure you get that question a lot. How would you answer that?
So what I would say is, as your franchise consultant, I will never make any earnings claims to you. It is not my job. One of the very first conversations I have with candidates is around how much I'm going to teach you what your money buys. So before I ever ask anybody, well, how much do you want to invest? That's an uneducated question, because how does the person answer when they don't even know what their money buys? So once I can explain to you what your money buys, why net worth is important, how financing works, then we can talk about a comfortable and safe level of investment. And when we're having this one-to-one, and I know that what I'm about to say won't get misconstrued or taken as an earnings claim, then I'm going to explain to you, if you don't know, kind of how business cash flowing returns happen, how we look at the tax advantages as real dollars. But that happens only in a one-to-one conversation where I can control what people hear, because it's never my job to represent a franchise or ever make an earnings claim to anybody. Because you know what, Rob? Here's the answer to the question. Who can predict how much money you are going to make in a business? Nobody. Because no matter how proven a franchise is, it's what you bring to that business plan, how you show up and how you execute, that determines the result that you get. When I was a personal trainer, right? I could have the best equipment. I could have the best environment. I could have the most up-to-date exercises, but I couldn't make the person show up. I couldn't make them show up consistently. I couldn't make them like not just phone it in, but actually put effort into the workout. So it was how they showed up, how consistently they showed up, how focused they were on getting to their goals that determined how successful they were, right?
Oh my
Well,
gosh.
it's the same thing.
Yeah.
The franchisor is the trainer. The franchisee is the trainee. So you got to apply the same methodology.
Yeah. Man, that's a standing O right there, Kim. I mean, that is, you hit the nail, you hit the bullseye of the bullseye, center, dead center. Like, I had that same conversation yesterday with an agent that called me interested in purchasing my real estate sales course. It is a $1,500 course. And I mean, you close one deal from it, you're making 10, 20, 30 times your ROI easily. And I could tell he's just really kicking the tires, and he's like, well, am I going to get listings? I'm going to get listings if I do the course. And I was like, listen, here's my guarantee to you, because I have a money back guarantee. I guarantee that if you do the work and if you implement to the max what I teach you, yes, you will get listings. I mean, this guy is on I have a free real estate mastermind every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Central. The Impossible to Fail Real Estate Mastermind. People can come for free. They can watch the replays on my YouTube, and they can register at zoomwithrob.com. And this guy is on that call with people every week talking about the listings, the buyers, the contracts that they're getting. I have plenty of case studies, and I'm like, my guarantee is that the information is what you need to have an incredibly successful career. What I can't guarantee is what you're going to do with it. Right. I can't do the work for you, but I can guarantee that if you apply it, like all the way with massive action and relentless consistency and time, you will crush it. I can equally guarantee you that if you buy this course, do nothing with it, and it sits on the shelf, you're not going to achieve your goals. It's the same thing when I used to train people, when I was competing in bodybuilding, and I trained people in nutrition and weight loss, which I still do today. And I give them the blueprint, the training plan, to eat exactly this every day, and I tell them, I guarantee if you stick to the plan, it's going to work. And I guarantee if you don't stick to the plan, it won't.
And if you do something in the middle, it'll be something in the middle.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, Rob, I stuck to the plan. I didn't lose any weight. Did you stick to it 100%? Well, I went to a wedding. How was the wedding? Did you have the wedding food? Yeah. Did you have dessert? I had 2 pieces of cake. Did you drink? I had 4 drinks. Okay. You just undid 3 weeks of progress. So like that happened, but I'm not going to change the plan because you can't execute it, right? We got to stick to it to know if it's working. That's amazing. So let's jump on that, because I know you have to roll in a minute, but you're a fitness nut. I'm a fitness nut. I firmly believe, and there's such a common thread with high performers that take their health really seriously and have a lot of discipline. Because if you take your health and your fitness and your physique and your nutrition, especially nutrition, some people can be naturally gifted with a fast metabolism. I ain't one of them, but nutrition, like, you can't out-train the kitchen. People are like, where do you get those abs? In the kitchen, right? You're right. There is such a common thread of the discipline of maintaining your health with business. How has your discipline and lifestyle in your fitness and health and physique transitioned to success as an entrepreneur?
It's 100% tied to it. I look at the incremental wins that you get in a gym. Like, everything you do in a gym to change your body is totally applicable to the science of winning in business, right?
Yes.
When you first start working out, it's not about lifting weights one time, right? You may go to the gym for 6 months and never see any result, right? But you know that you're planting the seeds, you're building the foundation. And as you eat better and as you train consistently, little by little by little, the fat's going to melt away and the muscle's going to appear. But it's an incremental change. Well, the same thing in a business. You're going to be every day coming to work, working on the fundamentals. You may not see instant success, but that doesn't mean it's not working. And like those yo-yo dieters who just like, oh, it didn't work, so do this. And oh, it didn't work. Right. If you're in a business, you know, and you just keep trying to change it because it's not working. Like, it's like, oh, slow down. Right. You know, this is a long haul. This isn't a kill today, eat today. And that doesn't mean you can't make money right out of the gate in a business, but it just means you have to get good at the fundamentals. You have to develop successful habits. Yes. And for me, I'm a mindset coach, right? So the number one thing that took me from average to history making, the switch happened right here. So when it happened to me, like when it happens to you, that's when you're able to go, oh. Yeah. Right. Like, so it really isn't about Fran Choice's process or like the stock market or the economy. It's really about what Kim is focused on and what she's determined to go make true. So I'm coaching my people. When I say setting expectations and helping them go through this like battlefield, it's really about helping them know how to think successfully. And that's what it comes down to. And if they take the principles that I teach them after they say yes to their business, like you, I'm very confident they can go on to become very successful business owners, just like me. There's nothing special about me. But what I'm also confident of is there's going to be some days where they forget and some days where they slide into the valley or into the gutter of their business. And that's okay. Like it's unrealistic to be like, I'm going to start a business and I'm going to be, you know, successful from day one. Like you're going to learn more when it isn't going right, when the phone isn't ringing, when the lead, you know, your number one employee quits than when it's just all blissful. Right. We learn more in the hard times. So we can't try to scurry away from the hard times or just have this unrealistic expectation that if it's hard, it's no good. No, if it's hard, it's real. Absolutely. You know, and you're going to grow through that and you're going to be stronger on the other side, right? Just like when you're at the bench up, you go for that 1 rep max and you get it and it's hard. The next time you do it, it's going to be a little bit easier. And then soon enough, that's going to be your warm-up weight. It's the exact same parallel. Yep. Man, you're 100% right about that. And there's so much of the discipline of bodybuilding that I have carried over into my day. Because as in the real estate world, it's lead generation, it's lead follow-up. And no one likes doing it, but you have to do it anyway. It's just part of the process. But the cool thing is, like you're talking about, you know, for me, I have, I teach that your mindset, like if I teach someone a mindset concept that they haven't experienced, they're brand new to the industry, and I talk to them about massive action in order to get that deal, they can kind of understand it, but they can't really relate to it and know it for themselves until they experience that, until they actually achieve the results and go, okay, now I get it. And that's going to come when you just master those daily drills, those principles, that discipline, that no matter what, you just stay focused and you get it done. And that is the common trend of successful people is, you know, one of my coaches, Coach Burt, has a great saying: professionals don't listen to their feelings. It's going to be one of the hardest things you've ever done, but it will absolutely be the most rewarding thing you've ever done if you follow the blueprint. I love it. I 100% agree. Yeah. Kim, I have one more question for you as we wrap up, and you can answer it real short. I always want to end my podcast with this question. Someone says, I want to get involved in franchising. What are 1 or 2 pieces of advice you can give them that for them would make it, as long as they follow your advice and implement it, impossible to fail? Well, the first thing is you're buying people, not widgets. So that's first and foremost, right? Okay. The most important thing. And if you're not using me, which I don't know why you would, because my services are free. Hello. But the other thing is to invest in a business that you can comfortably afford, because the number one reason that businesses fail is because people run out of money. So don't try to stretch yourself. It doesn't have to be the end all be all dream business. It could just be the first business or the next business along your path, right? Once you become a business owner, chances are you're going to own multiple businesses over the next few years of your life, not just one. So you start where you start. And then eventually you may be able to afford the business you were really dreaming of. So first is buy people, not widgets. Second is make sure you invest in a business you can more than comfortably afford, so you don't run out of money on the way to making it successful. And then third, don't go it alone. Call Kim Daly because I want to help you.
Right. Absolutely. I'm ready to get some franchising on right now. Let's go. Well, if you're listening to this podcast, remember that it is available on video as well. We're going to have all of Kim's links posted, all the ways you can get in touch with her. But do make sure, if you're listening to this in the car, remember Daly is DALY, and you want to go to thedailycoach.com, DALY, thedailycoach.com, to learn more about Kim's services, what she can do for you. It's free. I mean, right after this, I'm going to say, if I want to make it impossible to fail and to succeed in franchising, call Kim Daly. Done. Boom. Mic drop. That's it. And let Kim take it from there. Kim, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on today. I look forward to speaking with you again soon. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Rob. You're amazing.
Likewise. All right. Let's make it impossible to fail.